Today we are here to talk about circles. Okay, going back to the beginning of the year, we know that if P is the center of a circle, then that's how we name the entire circle. So this drawing has circle P. Okay, if a point is on the perimeter of the circle, so R is on the perimeter, and you connect that point to the center of the circle, that segment, that is called a radius. Now SP is also a radius. A diameter now will go from an endpoint on the circle to another endpoint on the circle, but it must pass through the center. Okay, so what happens if our segment has endpoints on the circle but does not pass through the center? So when I look at segment AB, okay, it does not pass through point P. So we need another name for that, and the name for that is a chord. So chord still has endpoints on the outside of the circle, but it is not required to pass through the center. It could. I could in fact call SR a chord, but more specifically, we can say it's a diameter, which lets us know that it does pass through the center of the circle. Okay. If I take a chord and I extend it through, so now I have a line that passes through the circle in two distinct points, I can call that line a secant line. Okay, again, it's called a secant line. So one more time for clarification, if a line passes through the circle at two distinct points, it is called a secant line. This time, if your line only passes through the circle at exactly one point, so it really doesn't pass through the circle, it just touches the circle at one point. Okay, to touch the circle at one point is to be tangent to the circle. So if this line is tangent to the circle at point M, then this line is now called a tangent line. Okay, last two. So point Z right here, this is what's called the interior of the circle. So because it's inside the perimeter of the circle, this is an interior point. Point W floating over here, that is outside the perimeter of the circle, so that is an exterior point. Interior, exterior. Okay, we're going to just go ahead and explain what an arc is right now too. So I have two different arcs. I have a minor arc and I have a major arc. So an arc is kind of exactly how it sounds. If I go from A to B, I can go right here along the perimeter of the circle, and that curved section there, that piece of the perimeter, if you will, that is called an arc. Now if the arc that I travel on, if the curved part of the circle that I travel on is the smaller path or the shorter path between two letters, okay, that is the minor arc. So what does that mean? That means this is the shortest way to walk from A to B. I didn't go this way all the way around the circle. So this is my minor arc. We can use two letters to name a minor arc. So it's saying go from A to B, and when you only see two letters, you're assuming that it is the shorter path and it's the path that should be less than 180 degrees. Now if I do want to go this long way all the way around, I can do that as well. That's still an arc. Okay, but in order to go the long way, I have to tell the person who's looking at it or who I want to travel the long way, hey, go from A to B, but travel through point S. So from A to B, there's A to B. But if I have to go through S, I have to go this way all the way around. So there's your difference between a minor arc and a major arc. One last little bit of vocab. I want to point out the difference between concentric circles and congruent circles. Okay, congruent circles are just two circles that are roughly the same size. They have the same length radius. So if circle C has a radius of 5 centimeters or 5 inches or whatever it is, and circle D has the same radius, now these are congruent circles. Okay, concentric circles are not congruent, but they are two circles that have the same center. So one circle must be inside the other circle, and the circles cannot touch at all. Also, it's important to note that your circles are never going to be misaligned. They're always going to be perfectly aligned since they have the same center. The center has to be in the middle of both circles. So it doesn't make sense for the outer one to be skewed.